How's it going? My name is Samuel Goulet, and this is my dad, Paul Goulet. And we're here, and we're doing a new segment for you guys. It's going to basically be a conversation a little bit between myself and my dad, and it's going to be fun. We're going to get to hear some really good stuff from my dad and from myself. And you have daily devotionals.
We're here good stuff for myself too?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So you have your daily devotionals. You have your interviews with the likes of Chris Volatin and Dr. Lim that you guys have seen.
And many more that are coming.
And then many more to come.
Steve
and so
Hill.
You have Steve Hill.
Bishop
Garlington and Banning Liebscher.
Yeah.
And so you're going to get all this really great conversation and really great outlets of spiritual truth and media, and this will be another one where
Can
two
there be
individuals.
humor here too?
Oh, there'll be comedy that'll eventually come.
How could you say Banning Liebscher? How do you know how to say his last name?
Liebscher? I think I've heard him say it.
No, but you know why? Because I never say Banning Liebscher. I always say Banning.
Because you don't want to mess up his last name.
I don't want to mess up his last name.
Yeah, some people have hard last names.
No, and that one I just never wanted to say it because I was afraid I'd mispronounce it.
Well, and I'm a Duke fan, Duke Blue Devils,
Yeah.
and their coach, Mike Krzyzewski.
Yeah.
I'm always afraid to say his name because it starts with a K, and it's Krzyzewski.
Yeah.
It looks nothing like what you actually say.
Well, I've always been confused on why you're a fan of a Blue Devils. I mean, you're a Christian, aren't you? Why would you ever want to cheer for Blue Devils?
I have no idea, but ever since I was young, I always liked them, and I wanted to go to their school too.
Yeah.
Why
didn't you go?
I don't know why I didn't go. That's a good question. Why didn't I go? I don't know. I'm a UNLV Rebel now, though.
Woo!
Go Rebels.
The Go Rebels. So we go from being, so you've made progress in your life. You've gone from being a Devil fan to a Rebel fan.
To a Rebel.
Wow, I guess that's progress.
That's progress. I'm moving up slowly.
Moving on up to the top. You didn't grow up watching the Jeffersons.
No, I didn't grow up watching the Jeffersons.
It was very, very funny show.
Was it?
Oh, it was so funny.
Really?
It's a story about an African-American family that back then, this is a big deal in the 70s, that moved to the
suburbs.
penthouse. No, the penthouse.
Oh, wow.
Of this apartment building. And it was like moving on up to the top, to the deluxe apartment in the sky. Anyway, they just had this great personality, and they're this primarily white area, and it was just the contrast between that family and the family.
And that was cutting edge at the time?
That was cutting edge at the time.
And that spoke volumes?
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I always like to see when like a media outlet like that can actually send a message and like a culture shifting message.
It's true.
Even.
It really was.
Because seeing something like that on TV could almost help people like that had a hard time with it, getting over stuff like that. It might even help them to
We should do reruns of Jeffersons. I wonder if we'd be allowed to do that on Spearflow.
Great. I mean, I'm sure we just have to get the rights and then do some reruns.
Why don't you check into it?
Yeah, I'll check into that. So as you can see,
it's dangerous because whatever happens between you and I is pretty spontaneous. So you never know what's going to happen.
Exactly. That's a really great point because I was just about to try and explain ourselves. Because I realized, wait a second, we have an audience, and so what we're here for is to talk about things.
That's true.
And so we'll be comfortable, and you guys, I hope you guys can get comfortable, kind of hear some really good stuff. And what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about Prayer Mountain a little bit, and we're going to be talking about some of the spiritual things that as a congregation and really as yourself being the pioneer and the arrowhead to this, you had to face in order to overcome it. And I was looking at my notes here, and I was just thinking about almost when we started facing some resistance and almost started facing some of the community having a little bit of a voice against it for whatever reasons. We won't go into those, but there started to be a little bit of a mixed emotions about it.
I think the primary concern was the height of the tower.
Yeah.
I think our neighbors we're gonna love them, and they think they're gonna love us. But I think it was just the height of the tower. Yeah. For some reason, they thought it was gonna block the mountain.
And at this point, we realized that's what their major concern was. But at the beginning, going through it, it wasn't always clear that some of the things, negative things said, or some of the neighbors weren't quite as clear in their voice, and so it was like. It was almost you could be dealing with a little bit of like a rejection issue on it, or even a little bit of an anger issue, or possibly a fear that we wouldn't be like.
Yeah, I think the big issue, because it was a 6-year battle, that's a long time. I don't know how many of you guys have done something that you fought, you believed in so much you were willing to fight 6 years for it. Maybe the 7th year, I don't know the exact time frame. Maybe it's 7 years. But when we got the land, it was a miracle because we got a great deal on it and all that. And then when we started talking with the city about getting us 4 more acres, leased for nothing for 25 years with a renewable lease on it. That was amazing because that's 9 acres now right there on Summerlin Parkway. And then someone else in our church bought another little slice and gave that to us there. And so we had a lot of miracles, but then a lot of resistance too. Mm-hmm. And so after a battle of 7 years, it's just like, I think people were getting weary, Samuel. I think they thought, okay, when are we going to do Prayer Mountain? What's wrong? How come we're not doing it? Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget one day I was just standing on Prayer Mountain, actually next to Prayer Mountain, and I was praying, and I you know how you hear things in your head? Mm-hmm. I've never heard God hear. I always hear thoughts. And then you go through the process of sorting them out, right? Mm-hmm. And I heard there's going to be a delay on Prayer Mountain. Mm-hmm. And then I turned around, and pretty clearly it was, look at that building there, which was the building which we now own. But at the time, of course, it seemed like an impossibility. Mm-hmm. So I kind of dismissed it. I thought, there's not going to be a delay. Why would there be a delay? This is before the recession. Mm-hmm. This is before Pulte they're going to build that amazing road called Desert Hope. They were going to call it, the monuments there would be called Reverence. Everything was seemingly poised to build Prayer Mountain. Yeah. And then the recession. Pulte pulls out from building the road. Because they're not going to build a community back there. I mean, everybody's hit by the recession. Mm-hmm. And so, and then Levi, your brother-in-law, my son-in-law, calls me and says, hey, have you ever thought of buying that building? Mm-hmm. And then that was probably a 2-year battle. Mm-hmm. Because when we first went there, they wanted over $7.5 million. Mm-hmm. And then finally we settled on 3.275. So that's, I don't think most people have the tenacity or the desire or the certainty of what to fight for. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's more it. Maybe some people are just not even sure what to fight for, so they don't fight. Mm-hmm. I think we knew that we were called to build Prayer Mountain. We knew that we were supposed to possess. We knew we were supposed to start another campus. And I think we just, sometimes when you're fighting the process, you can get distracted, you can get discouraged. But if I can encourage everybody watching today is that once you find out what you're supposed to do from God, then even if it takes 7 years, keep doing it. 20 years, keep doing it. My dad, your grandpa, I had a dream that he'd get saved one day. And of course, I always wanted to see him saved. But it took over 20 years for that to happen. Mm-hmm. But I never stopped. Man, I don't think I ever stopped believing God for that. Maybe I got discouraged sometimes.